Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cultured Pull List. Now on episode 11, and in this episode, we're going to be tackling a few different comics. We're going to be talking about the newest Amazing Spider-Man arc going on right now, and we're going to be talking about Adventures of Superman, Jon Kent, #1, as well as Blue Beetle Graduation Day, #1. So, got a pretty full lineup for you this week. So, let's just get right into it. Alrighty, well, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. As usual, we're your hosts, Mike and Luke.
Yep.
And we're going to start out with the Amazing Spider-Man issues first. Now, we're not doing like just a full graphic novel like we have been doing. We're sticking more to our actual pull list. So actually, some comics we've picked up recently and read. So yeah, so first off, with the whole Amazing Spider-Man run that's been going on since last year, I believe, there's been this ongoing thing where something happened, like they introduced that something happened and that changed a lot of stuff, like it changed a lot of Peter's relationships. He and MJ aren't together. She has a new relationship with some guy named Paul. This guy, and they actually have kids, which is kind of weird because they're all grown up and stuff. It's like, what? Peter doesn't really have a relationship with most of his friends anymore. But I think pretty much the only person that he's really close with now is Norman Osborn, which is weird, but he's like newly reformed. Like he was released from prison and seems to actually be a good guy now. And Peter's actually working for him at Oscorp, but he's also kind of teaming up with him. Like Osborn is helping him with his Spider-Man stuff. Like he made him like this armored suit, has a bunch of gadgets on it and stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. And a lot of people have been complaining because, the series has been going on for like 20 issues. We still don't know what the hell happened, Right. So this is finally where they're starting to reveal some of what actually happened and why things have been crazy. I know this series has been getting kind of a lot of criticism. I think mainly because of that. Because they haven't really liked where the direction's going, especially having no explanation. So I think a lot of people are happy. Including myself, that they're actually explaining this. Yeah. But yeah, so let's jump right into the issues here. We're going to be covering issues 21 through 23, which are the three most recent Amazing Spider-Man issues. The writer is Zeb Wells, art by John Romita Jr., who is kind of an iconic comic artist at this point. So I always enjoy when he does Spider-Man comics. And then our inker is Scott Hanna, colorist Marcio Meniz, and letterer is VC's Joe Carmagna, which I don't know what VC is, to be honest with you. It just said that in the comic. So, and these issues came out between February and April. So like the newest issue 23, I actually just picked up this week. So yeah, it's pretty new. So, alrighty. So first off, this arc is kind of drawing on, well, not kind of, it is drawing on some stuff that happened way back in 2008 in the comics. But the writer, Zeb Wells, he wrote those issues. So he's kind of calling back to some previous stuff and tying it all together. So long story short, this mathematician named Dr. Benjamin Raymond was using like these symbols, this symbology that resembles Mayan symbols to summon this Mayan god Wayep, and he wanted to merge with him to become his emissary on Earth called Kahul Ajah, but he needed to sacrifice a man and a woman for the ritual, and he ended up doing this like out in the woods somewhere, and he was able to summon Wayep, and Wayep caused this unnatural snowstorm, which caused a lot of Earth's heroes to notice, and Spider-Man and Wolverine ended up going and stopping Raymond from totally bringing Wayep to Earth, and they sent Wayep back. So that's kind of the history you need to know before jumping into this issue. But so what we have here, this starts out, Peter's sleeping in, he thinks it's Saturday, But then as he's laying there, he realizes it's actually Friday. So he jumps out of bed and tries to hurry off to work, but he's already late. And at the same time, MJ and Paul are trying to go to the park with their kids. So it's just kind of like a normal family Friday, I guess. But as they're going outside, they notice this snowstorm, and it's supposed to be, like Paul remarks, it's supposed to be in the 70s today, according to the forecast. So that's kind of weird. And then MJ looks up and she sees this weird guy floating in this tornado. And she mutters something to herself, like, I remember. And Peter ends up calling her. And she says, Peter, do you see it? And he says, yeah, I think so. And she said, he's back. He came back. And then it skips to, well, not skips, but it goes back to 1 year later, or 1 year earlier, sorry. And this guy, Dr. Raymond, is in this prison cell in Rikers Island, but he has a bunch of like Mayan symbols on his cell, and there's like dead bodies on the floor of his cell as well. And he seems to have some sort of acolyte or follower there with him, and he's preparing to basically sacrifice the guy to have enough power to go find Spider-Man, is the idea. And so he does, and he's able to teleport there right outside the window of Peter and MJ's apartment. And he ends up breaking through the wall and says, you remember me? And Peter says, like, I think you have me mistaken for somebody else. So he tries to fight him, but he ends up being blasted backwards, and this Raymond guy ends up confronting, well, I guess Mary Jane ends up confronting him, and he grabs onto her wrist, and she's able to get like a flash of his plan, and says that she sees him flooding the world with blood. But before Raymond can actually do anything to Mary Jane, Peter rams Raven out of the window out into the street, and then goes to change into a Spider-Man suit. And he ends up like swinging outside and meeting Raven out in the street, and ends up just kind of beating the crap out of him. Raven doesn't really have much competition there. Or I guess Spider-Man doesn't have much competition. But as he's beating him, he stops for a second because Raven kind of acts like he's surrendering. But he ends up grabbing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My computer's making noises.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering. No, you're good. Raven ends up touching Spider-Man, and it kind of gives him a flashback of what happened when he and Wolverine stopped him from summoning Way Up, and he remembers his name. He calls him Raven. But at that point, these symbols start glowing on Spider-Man's chest, and they start glowing on MJ's wrist as well, where Raven touched her. And they, there's like a big flash of light, and they end up being transported to this like apocalyptic version of New York City, where there's like a bunch of weird monsters flying around, and a lot of the buildings are destroyed and in disrepair. And that's where issue 21 ends. Issue 22 picks up, and Peter and MJ have been in this apocalyptic world for like a week now. Actually, it does actually start out with showing present day, and Norman Osborn sees like the storm and everything, and goes to grab his golden glider suit to help out, and he catches Kamala Khan admiring his suit, I guess, but he just kind of tells her to leave, and she does. But I don't really know if that's important yet, but I feel like it might be later on in this arc. But back to the flashback. So Peter and MJ have been in this apocalyptic New York for like a year. Not a year, my God, no. 1 week.
Yeah, okay.
and they've been like just kind of struggling to scrounge for food and everything, and been running away from all the monsters. But at this point right now, they're running away from this weird like Mayan wooden dragon type thing, looks like. And they try to fight him off, but it doesn't go too well at first. But then this random hooded guy shows up, and he uses this weird gun and fires it at the dragon, which destroys it. And he explains that to defeat these monsters, you basically just have to disrupt their symbology, And he ends up taking off his hood, and it's revealed to be this Paul guy who MJ has been in a relationship with the last, like, this whole rebooted series pretty much. So he ends up taking Mary Jane and Peter to his home, his base, whatever you want to call it, and it's filled with all this this technology with symbols on it. And Spider-Man Peter remarks, like, why are, what's with all this symbols on this technology? And he says the technology are, like, the symbols are the technology. And he explains that he was part of this group that worked under Dr. Rabin. And Dr. Rabin's goal was to basically use symbols to manipulate matter. I guess his idea was that he could control, like, the information, like, kind of use the symbols, to control the information that matter is made up of, was the idea. But he ended up doing it to the point where it turned out he was actually communicating with, like, Mayan entities, ancient Mayan entities. And so then his goal became to be, like, their emissary, this one particular god's emissary on Earth. That was his plan. And he ended up sending Paul to this, like, post-apocalyptic world to send Wei Yep a message. And so all this, like, technology was developed by Dr. Rabin. And Peter spies this spider symbol, and he asks what that is, and Paul says that it's used to travel between realities, because spider symbology seems suited to traveling different realities along quantum strings. And then Peter corrects him and says strands, which, kind of makes sense when you get into all the Spider-Verse stuff,
right,
and they talk
right.
about, like, the web of the universe or whatever, So then we cut back to Rabin, who is making symbols again, and he communes with Wayep, and Wayep basically says, like, you failed me, you suck, why the heck are you trying to be my emissary still? And Rabin says, yeah, but I actually have a sacrifice for you now, which is Spider-Man. And then we cut back to Spider-Man. He's actually been working on fixing this spider symbol to get back to their reality. And Paul explains to Mary Jane that, basically what you would know if you had read the comics in the past, where Wolverine and Spider-Man stopped Rabin, which I hadn't, or if I had, I read them so long ago, I don't remember. So I had to like go back and do some research on this, because I'm like, what? I don't remember this at all. So he explains that, and explains that Peter Spider-Man basically became the symbol of Wayep's defeat. So basically his existence is stopping Wayep from coming to Earth and taking it over, or, come to their 616 reality. So Wayep's plan now is to kill Spider-Man, but Spider-Man, Peter manages to fix the symbol so they can go back to their reality, but it can only take one person. So his plan is to send Mary Jane so she can go get help.
Right.
But right when, pretty much as soon as he fixes it, Wayep shows up. And yeah, they call him Sunblood. That's like their word for him, because he's like some symbol of their defeat now. So Spider-Man tries to hold him off, but he's overpowered pretty damn quickly. All the while, Wayep saying stuff like about him being the god of mischief and the god of scab and bone and all this stuff, just kind of listing off his resume, I guess. But I guess trying to be intimidating. But he ends up just smacking the crap out of Peter, who tries to hand off the spider symbol to Mary Jane, and he actually does manage to, but she doesn't want to leave him. And he manages to break away for a second to give the spider symbol to Mary Jane, but he's pretty quickly attacked again by Wayep, and he just starts beating the ever-loving crap out of him, and is pretty close to killing him. Paul tried to talk him out of giving the symbol to Mary Jane, because if you die, then Wayep can just come to your Earth. And that's something Paul explained to Mary Jane as well, that Wayep needs an emissary on a planet or a reality to come there and take it over. So that's what Raven wants to become. kind of like a herald for Galactus. The emissary kind of like prepares the Earth or whatever reality for Way Up showing up. But yeah, so what Way Up's about to kill Peter, but Mary Jane takes the symbol and activates it and sticks it on Peter to send him back to their reality. And it opens like this door for him to go through, but it ends up actually cutting Way Up in half and killing him. So one of the halves falls through with Peter, and Paul pushes the other half through as well. So there are these two halves flying over. This is over Pennsylvania. So Peter's falling down. He uses his webs to kind of slow his descent, but these two halves just kind of like fly like missiles and land on Earth. So the next issue picks up. This is actually an image from Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 1, the very start of this series. And it was kind of like teasing this, but we didn't know what the hell it was at the time.
Right.
But now we do, and Peter took off his damaged suit and buried it in the ground, and like right as the authorities show up, so he runs away with the spider symbol technology, planning on fixing it to go back and get Mary Jane. And he realizes pretty quickly he's in Pennsylvania, so he takes a bus back to New York, which I'm sure takes a little while.
Right.
So then when he gets back, he hears a couple guys talking about the spring training beginning. I'm guessing for football. They don't really say which sport it is, but he hears that and says, like, wait a minute, we've been gone for like a week. Spring training started a week ago. So then he ends up going to Aunt May's house too and kind of asking her like what day it is. And it turns out in their reality, they've only been gone for like a few hours. So like a week on that in the other reality is like a couple hours in the 616 reality. And for some reason, like Norman Osborn is at Aunt May's house. I guess he was there to kind of check up on Peter. But Peter is like in a really fragile state of mind, and he gets mad at him. It's like, why are you here? And he ends up like throwing him against the wall and kind of attacking him until Aunt May kind of pulls him away. So once he regains his composure, he goes to back to his apartment and grabs a spider suit and makes his way to the Baxter building, where Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm are. Reed and Sue are gone, helping like something with the Skrulls, I guess. But he tells them that he explains the whole situation to them and says he needs to fix that spider symbol and asks to use Reed's lab. And they tell him that they were kind of told to keep him away from the lab because of what happened over Pennsylvania, like those two halves of Way In or Way Up exploded, and they seemed like some other dimensional attack. And they also the authorities found a Spider-Man suit buried under the ground, so they kind of think Spider-Man might be involved, or at least like an imposter of Spider-Man. So they wanted Peter to wait there for Captain America to show up and for them to sort everything out. But he's thinking like every minute that he's there is like days for Mary Jane, so he really doesn't have any time. So he just dips out. And they aren't too super happy about it because they were trying to keep him there, but he runs away and knows that he's going to attract more attention as Spider-Man. So he changes back into his normal street clothes in an alley, but who happens to be in that alley but Captain America, kind of randomly, I guess. But maybe he was following him. They don't really make that clear. He just sort of appears. But he kind of tries to talk Peter down and is like, I'm on your side. I don't believe you had anything to do with it, but the FBI really wants to arrest you. But just come in with me, we'll explain everything. It shouldn't take more than a day or two. And Peter's like, I don't have that much time. I got to go. So he attacks Cap and ends up like smacking him with his own shield at one point. And Cap says, I think I might have underestimated how frustrated you are about this whole situation or something. But so he like kind of catches Cap off guard and manages to run away. And he ends up going to Norman Osborn's penthouse and breaks through the window. and basically just walks up to his lab and says, like, you said you wanted to help me earlier at my aunt's house. Well, then help me. And that's actually how that ends, unfortunately. Obviously there's going to be, more to this arc as it goes on, but this is the newest issue. I plan on covering the last half of this arc once it actually comes out, but it's not going to be for another, at least another month. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, pretty interesting. Probably the most interesting arc that's been going on in these. Well, that's not entirely true, because they had the whole dark web arc right before this, and that was pretty interesting. But this is a little more interesting because it's more Spider-Man centric as opposed to a crossover event. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I haven't been hating this Amazing Spider-Man series. Some people have been really hard on it. It's not amazing. It's not as good as, I say, most of Dan Slott's stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, it's been entertaining. It's felt like Spider-Man. There's obviously been some choices, but I did come in a bit late. I came in around issue 13, 14. Okay. And then I went back and collected some of the earlier ones. So I was kind of lost to begin with. And I thought that was because I came in late, not because they've been kind of being nebulous about everything this long. But, it hasn't been bad. And I do like this arc a lot, though. I feel like they're doing a good job explaining stuff. It's not just oh, this one thing happened and now everybody hates Peter. It seems like this big thing happened, and I'm looking forward to see how it ends. So yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
what do you will hop into mine. So I'm covering The Adventures of Superman, Jon Kent, #1. I realized literally just a little before recording this that issue 2 came out today. I didn't read it.
Oh,
it's probably gonna be on the cultured pick of the week coming soon. But yeah, it's written by Tom Taylor, artist Clayton Henry, inker is also Clayton Henry, and the colorist Jordi Belair, and the letterist is Wes Abbott.
Yeah, I actually just picked up the issue 23 of that Spider-Man comic today. I looked up when it was coming out. I was like, oh shoot, it came out today. So I ran over to my comic shop and they had it. I was like, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so this issue picks up with Clark Kent Superman is hearing some voices and he's kind of beaten up, and so he's like, I'm done running. And then it turns out the voice he's hearing is Ultraman, evil Superman from Earth 2, I believe. Yeah. They're having a fight, and then Ultraman kills him.
Oh, shoot. No kidding.
Yeah. But that turns out it was on a different world, different Superman.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I was like, there's no way they just started a new Superman series. There's no way they're going to nerf him.
Right, exactly. And so we cut back to the Earth Zero with Jon Kent. He's talking to his partner. I believe his name's Jay. They're talking about how they like their secret identities. And then Oracle calls in, which I didn't know that Oracle and John had a relationship, but it's cool to see that she's kind of helping.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Well. But yeah, it turns out that there are a bunch of satellites that are just kind of crashing down to the Earth, and nobody really knows why. And so Jon Kent is doing it, but he needs some help from other superheroes. They don't show up in the book, but they're kind of mentioned that they're helping somewhere. And so he starts.
Oh, is this during the Lazarus thing?
Yes.
Yeah, because I just read Lazarus Planet Alpha, and they talked about this is part of the explosion of this Lazarus volcano or something causing all these storms across Earth, I think is the idea.
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't read that, so I just satellites falling from the sky. So other heroes are helping. They don't actually show up in the book, but they're kind of just mentioned to be helping somewhere.
Yeah.
And then John starts hearing voices as well, and so we're led to believe that it's also Ultraman, but it's actually President Superman from, I believe, Earth 22, I believe, if I remember
something
correctly.
Like that. Yeah, that's that sounds right.
Yeah, and so he came.
Or wait, no, that's Val-Zod, not Calvin, whatever.
Okay, this is a different one then.
Yeah, there's two of them. There's Val-Zod, and then there's Calvin something or other, who's the president.
Yeah, okay, this is Val-Zod. Yeah, from
I forget what
yeah,
it's from. There's so many different.
Maybe it's Earth 2. I don't know. Anyway, no.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's Earth 2.
Earth 2. Okay, yeah. All right. So he basically shows up and he helps help Clark with the satellites, and he's like, "We need to talk about something." And then he gets with Mr. Terrific and a version of Red Tornado from a different planet, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay. But he's basically saying that there is something that's coming around the multiverse and it's killing different versions of Clark Kent, and so they go to
Mm.
they go to Jon specifically because they're like, if we sent your dad, they'd probably kill him too. But if we
Right.
get you, then maybe you can like, we can maybe throw him off guard.
Hmm.
Oh, that's the end of it. Okay, so it turns out that this red tornado is actually Lois Lane from a different world, and she's like, my Superman's dead, and after they killed Superman, like the whole world just kind of died. So like
That's interesting.
It's bigger than just like one superhero dying. Like once Superman's gone, then like the whole world kind of goes to shit.
Interesting.
So it's like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so if I really enjoyed this, and if I knew the issue was out, I would have gotten it. But
right,
it was really
right.
cool. So I'm really interested to see where this goes. Like I was a fan of Jon Kent before with like Dark Crisis, and he showed up a little bit in Nightwing. I have never actually read any of his standalone books, but I picked this one up, and I'm actually really interested to see where it goes. So
yeah, do you know, because it says something with like Road to Injustice on it? Do you know where that's going at all? Or
I don't. I'm assuming it's something to do with the Earth 3 Ultraman, but I don't know for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Huh? That's pretty cool. I really wish they hadn't changed his suit though. I like the one he had in the Dark Crisis a lot.
Yeah,
I wish they kept that one, but his other one's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I think the reason why they did that is because when they have like the massive shot of all the heroes, you can discern them between Jon and Clark, because if one has a cape and one doesn't have a cape, you'd be like, okay, that one's this one, and that. So
that's probably why you're right.
It's like, I mean, you have to, if you want the cape, you probably have to change like a whole bunch of the rest of the suits. So you can tell.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the next one I picked was Blue Beetle Graduation Day #1, and this came out last year, and there's a bunch of issues that came out after it that I haven't gotten to either.
Yeah, it's like a 6-episode event, right?
Yeah,
exactly. 6 series, whatever.
Yeah, so it opens up on some action. Blue Beetle is fighting this supervillain that has like, she can like teleport with her like cape or whatever. And one thing, probably the big takeaway for me with this book is that the artwork is really weird, like especially the faces. Like I don't like this.
That is really what turned me off, because like I really like Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
When I saw this series, like the cover art, I was just like, I don't know, it looks kind of goofy.
It looks like the kind of face like they make on TikTok. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so he has to run to his graduation ceremony. And they go there, and his parents are there, and they're talking Spanish for like, I think this lasts like a whole page. They're just talking Spanish, and none of it's translated. Which
my gosh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bold move, and I have to respect them for it. Like it's pretty cool. Normally in comics, when they're speaking a different language, like in some recent Shang-Chi comics, they'll basically have like a little note on the bottom that says this is translated from whatever language. And they'll actually be in English so we can understand it, but this is just in Spanish. And I kind of can pick up some of it, but I don't know all of it.
Well, yeah, because it seems like pretty much everybody who worked on it. Did we say who?
No, we didn't. We didn't do that.
I was gonna say, like, wait a minute.
All right, yeah. So Blue Beetle Graduation Day, written by Josh Trujillo. Because the J is
Trujillo, is something like
Trujillo.
that.
That's probably it. Yeah. And the artist is Adrian Gutierrez. Also, the inker, colorist is Will Quintina. And the letterer is Lucas Gattioni.
Yeah. So it seems like they're all Latino or Hispanic. So
okay, yeah. So we're here, and then he shows up at the nick of time. This feels like very Peter Parker to me.
Yes, yeah,
He shows up. He kind of sneaks into the back, and they're like, "Oh, great."
Which I kind of feel like Jaime is kind of like the DC Universe version of Peter Parker, which is kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And back onto the faces, like based on what the character is saying, it seems like it's supposed to be like threatening or scary, but this face is just
it's really
so
goofy.
Bizarre. I don't know. It's weird.
That's funny.
But basically, he kind of just gets this vision while he's having a ceremony, and they're like, "You think you can get away from this? Is the Reach?" And they're like, "You think you can get away from us? Like, we're gonna come get you." And then like his suit starts acting up, so he has to kind of run away really quick before he transforms in front of everybody. And then like it kind of just takes him up into space, and he sees a whole bunch of visions of like different spaceships and stuff. And then it apparently this lasted a long time, because when he crashes back down, it's nighttime.
Oh wow! I like that city shot a lot. That's cool.
Yeah. And then he crashes back down and having like a little graduation party at his house, and Superman's there, and he basically basically Superman talks to him about like the Reach, and he's basically like, yeah, you helped a lot during Dark Crisis, but like you're gonna probably have to sit this one out because you're not in control of your body. Because like for those of you who don't know, Blue Beetle has this scarab, and it was originally designed to be like once it's attached to a host, it kind of like possesses them, and now the Reach is in control of whoever the host is.
Yeah.
But in the case of Jaime Reyes, he was able to kind of manipulate it, and so now he's kind of in control of it. But obviously what's happening in this book is he's sort of losing that control a little bit. And Superman's basically like, yeah, because of that, you probably just sit this one out. We'll take care of the Reach, and it'll be fine.
And again, in that face, yeah. It feels like kind of anime in a way.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But like the weirder side of anime.
Right. Yeah, and they're talking some more. And then as Clark flies away, he's basically talks to Batman. He's like, yeah, Jaime doesn't seem to know what's going on, but I kind of just told him to sit it out and we'll take care of it. And like, yeah, I think, yeah. And so it's basically like the Justice League are pretty scared with the whole Reach situation, but they don't know what's going on. And then there's this panel. This is probably going to go somewhere in the later series, but
bro, where is Dad's eyes? What the heck happened? I mean, it's a pretty good way to scare your kid. Just like remove your eyes and be like, "Where have you been?"
Yeah, exactly. But basically, like they're like, "Okay, you graduated. Now you have to move out." They give him like toilet paper and towels and stuff. Like, okay, move out.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't seem very like Latino to me, but you know,
yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah, the artwork doesn't either, but
yeah, right.
But yeah, basically the book closes with one of his friends is watching this on his phone, and they're like, "There's this." They said which country it was. It's somewhere in South America, but there's basically like this supervillain, and it looks to be like a yellow beetle, if I were to guess, but I don't know exactly.
Yeah, you can see the scarab in the front though instead of the back. That's
right. Yeah, so there's an attack obviously in South America, and probably Blue Beetle is going to fight that individual at some point.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, that's cool. I feel like that's kind of timely given the new trailer just came out.
Yeah, exactly. Just like when Black Adam came out, they had a limited series as well, so they're tying it into the movies. Unlike Jon Kent, I don't think I'm going to continue this series. Like the story didn't really grab me, and the artwork is just like not doing it for me. So
yeah, the artwork was the main. Yeah, like I said, it was kind of the main thing turning me off. I kind of feel like the only reason I would pick this up is because of like I like Jaime Reyes, and also it does kind of look like they're building up something kind of interesting for the Reach showing up, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be like a crossover event necessarily. So it's kind of I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I might read it, but I don't know if I'll buy them. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I'll probably just stick to older Blue Beetle issues. Comics. But yeah, that is our main issues for this week. Now let's do our cultured picks. So Luke, you had, was it Legends of Gotham, I think?
Yes, Batman Legends of Gotham. And so this story is kind of like, it focuses on Red Hood and then the Outsiders. And for those of you who don't know, the Outsiders is kind of like Batman's Black Ops, kind of off the book superhero team that kind of just go on secret missions. Mostly consists of Batman, Black Lightning, and Katana. There are other characters that kind of come in and out, but those are like the main core team.
Yeah, they kind of did an adaptation of it in like season 3 of Young Justice.
Yeah,
I think it was called like Young Justice Outsiders.
Yeah. And so Red Hood's there too, and they're kind of so a couple of years ago there was an event with this big organization, or I'm not really sure if it was one entity or an organization, but Leviathan and that whole deal, like stealing secrets from other people. And so all of the Leviathan records are being auctioned off on Gamora Island, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and so
wasn't that that was in the Authority.
The Authority,
okay, that's an interesting
and there. Red Hood and the Outsiders are both after it, and so they decide to team up and go together. It's a really good issue. It's definitely building up towards something, but what what makes me upset is it doesn't actually say what it's building up towards. So like there's a big
Oh.
teaser at the end, but it's like, where do I go to continue the story? It
Right.
doesn't say.
And isn't it just a one shot? So it's not
Yeah,
like
it
you
is.
can buy the
Yeah.
next issue. Yeah.
Right. But
Hmm.
I really liked it, other than the weird cliffhanger. But
Yeah, that sounds cool. I like all those characters a
yeah,
lot. I find like any Batman family stuff is usually pretty cool.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So my pick this week is DC Universe Lazarus Planet Alpha, which you
Mm.
kind of talked about briefly
Mhm.
earlier, but this is a one shot too. The way it seems to go, like it's definitely one of these big events where you have to like buy a bunch of other stuff. But
Yeah.
what's kind of unique about this is you really only need to get 2 books to get the main storyline.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's this Lazarus Planet Alpha and then Lazarus Planet Omega.
Right.
And then all the other things are just kind of like happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of other like, Justice League and like I think that Jon Kent thing is kind of a tie-in too.
Mhm.
And then all that does is kind of show what the other heroes are doing during all this. But
Right.
it's basically, I guess it picks up after Batman and Robin #4, I think, which I didn't
Mhm.
read, so I was kind of going into this blind. But
Yeah.
apparently, like this Lazarus volcano exploded and started spewing like a bunch of this green lava type stuff that's causing
Mhm.
all these weird storms across the planet that
Yeah.
are like changing people's powers or giving people's powers, and kind of like for for Supergirl, it makes it so that solar radiation takes away her powers, and if it's
Mhm.
dark, then she's stronger, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But there's like this, I forget, like this, like some entity that calls itself like the Red Bull King or something like that. But they're like what they did. The story's a little bit complicated, so I don't remember everything about
Mhm.
it, but it's definitely worth picking up because it's only like a one shot, and
Right.
it's not like you have to collect the rest. But it is kind of cool because Damian is kind of highlighted because Batman's kind of incapacitated,
Mm.
and Damian kind of takes up a leadership role, and kind of sends the main group of heroes that's there. He kind of sends on different missions, like 2 main groups.
Mhm.
And there's like this one character that was used by the bad guys to like I think capture all of the magic powered beings. So like at the very end of this book, you see all of the magic, most of the magic DC characters being released. I think
Mhm.
they were trapped in like Dr. Fate's helmet,
Okay.
or something. So like it's pretty interesting. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's as huge as like Dark Crisis was, but it is kind of interesting, and it's at least worth checking out like
Mhm.
this one shot.
Yeah.
What's really weird is they're highlighting this guy called like the Monkey Prince, who's in the middle
Mhm.
here. And I
Yeah.
don't really know much about him, but they're tying him in a lot because like his dad knew like the main villain or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's kind of interesting in that regard, but at the same time, I don't really care about, like, I don't even know
Mhm.
who the hell this Monkey Prince is.
Yeah, I know he has his own series, but other than that, I don't really know.
Yeah, but it seems like an interesting like crossover event
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's nothing like insanely special, I don't think, but it's worth reading if you're really into like the magic side of things because that really
Mhm.
plays a pretty big role. So yeah, it's pretty fun, and it's a
Yeah.
one shot, which I like those because I feel like
Mhm.
like if I get too into a series, it's like I've been collecting this for 8 years.
Right.
But yeah, so that is our cultured picks, and
Mhm.
that is our show. That's all the time we
Yeah.
got for this week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Mhm.
This has been the Cultured Pull List. If you would like to support us on Patreon, we would really appreciate it. Check us out at patreon.com/theculturednerd. And if you would like to support me and Luke and our show specifically, look for our show's specific tier on that Patreon page. Thank you so much to all of our current Patreon supporters. We couldn't do this without you. I am your host, Michael Malillo, and my co-host is Luke S. Our logo was designed by Jose Navarro, and our intro was designed by myself. Thank you again for joining us. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you would like to check out The Cultured Nerd on social media, scan that QR code on the bottom left. And if you'd like to check out Casual Experts, which is me and Luke's brand, we have our own podcast and YouTube channel and social media, all that fun stuff. Go ahead and scan that QR code on the bottom right.